We want to talk now about the economic impact of African swine fever with Derrell Peel, our livestock marketing specialist. Derrell, let's dive right in and talk about some of the impacts in China and other countries.
Well, of course, China is by far the biggest pork-producing, hog-producing country in the world. Historically, they've produced nearly half of the world's hogs there. So, African swine fever is now impacting a number of countries, including some in Europe, some in Africa, but most particularly in Asia. So since this disease was reported in China in August of 2018, it has continued to spread, causing widespread devastation. It's now in North and South Korea as well. Vietnam has been heavily impacted, and the Philippines, Mongolia, and so on. But in China, because of the size of their pork industry, and of course the estimates vary widely, and they're continuing to grow because it's by no means controlled there. So estimates range from 50 to 70 or 80% of their hogs may be lost by the end of this year. That's an enormous loss of meat production, not only in China, but really on a global scale. And so because of this deficit of pork production, pork is the most popular meat in China, so there's a huge deficit to be filled there. They're looking to recover that wherever they can. They're buying pork, but they're also buying other proteins as well from all over the world. And the fact of the matter is, there's a deficit that cannot be filled in the world right now.
And what does all this mean for producers and investors here at home?
Well, with respect to the pork industry specifically, of course, we have other issues, right, with China right now. So we've got all these trade issues, the tariffs are in place. So the U.S. is probably the least competitive place right now. But again, China really has no option but to try to source protein wherever they can. So we're beginning to see, the pork industry is beginning to see some of the anticipated increase in exports to China. And we'll see more as we finish out 2019 and go into 2020. Some fairly direct impacts in the pork industry. Again, we're sort of looking for those things to continue to grow as time goes on, despite the tariff situation.
And then in terms of how this may translate to U.S. Beef markets and kind of that area, interpret that all for us.
Well, the beef industry has been an interesting situation. Of course, China's been growing rapidly for a number of years. They've far eclipsed now the U.S. as the #1 beef importing country in the world. Even though beef consumption is per capita is pretty low in China, but in total it's a big number and it's growing very rapidly. And this is going to exaggerate that even more because of the overall need for protein in China. Beef, the U.S. industry has not been very directly impacted by all of this yet because we simply don't export much beef to China. We don't have much market share there. The tariffs make that an even bigger challenge. But again, the African swine fever situation is going to directly or indirectly boost all markets.
So the conversations and opportunities may continue.
Absolutely.
Okay, Derrell, thanks a lot. We'll see you again soon.